for both of us.
You will, my poor princess.
My sweet young Gwendolyn.
Sister, won't you?
Of course. There is just one question I would like to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest. So it is a matter of some importance for us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecil, pains me very much to be forced to speak the truth. First time in my life that I have ever been reduced to such a painful position. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I never had a brother, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having a brother in my life.
No brother at all?
No.
I think it is quite clear, my dear Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl to find herself in, is it?
Let us walk away in a dignified manner. They will hardly dare venture after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, are they?
How can you sit there, calmly eating cake when we are in this horrible trouble?
I cannot eat cake in an agitated manner. The cream would probably stain my designer shirt.
You say it is perfectly hot as you're eating cake, under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me.
Archie, I wish to goodness you would go away.
Possibly ask me to go out without dinner. It's absurd. No one ever does. Except vegetarians. Besides, I have made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
My dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself this afternoon, and I will naturally take the name of Ernest. Gwendolyn would wish it. You can't be christened Ernest. It's absurd. There's no evidence that I have ever been christened in my life. It is perfectly different in your case. You already have.
But I haven't been christened for years.
Algernon, why don't you go away? I have already told you to go.
I haven't quite finished my tea yet. Look, more cake.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else might have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame there.
They're eating cake! That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Can you cough?
But I haven't got a cough.
They're looking in our direction. What effrontery!
They're approaching. It's very cold of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing they have to do.
Our dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very important to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why do you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
So that I have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems like a satisfactory explanation. Does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. But that does not affect the beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts on the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. Their answers appear to be quite satisfactory.
Yes, I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I need no.
True. There are matters at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? It is not a pleasant task.
Could we both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I almost always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Your first names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our first names, is that all? But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are willing to do this terrible thing?
For me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal.
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. When matters of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are. Darling.
Darling.
Lady Captain.
Bracknell. What? Have we met before?
I don't think so.
Gwendolyn, what is the meaning of this?
Maybe that I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young and physical weakness in the old. A prize, sir, for my daughter's sudden flight in her Porsche. By her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a £50 note, and followed her at breakneck speed up the motorway. Mr. Worthing, you will understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon?
Yes, Mr. Master.
May I ask if this is the house in which your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. Fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? His death must have been extremely sudden.
Oh, I killed Bunbury. I mean, Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Oh, he was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was this Mr. Bunbury a fundamentalist of any kind? I have the utmost respect for religious devotion, unless it involves the use of pyrotechnics.
No, doctors found out that Bunbury could not live. So Bunbury died.
Well, I'm glad that he made up his mind and followed proper medical advice. And now, Mr. Worthing, may I ask who this young person, whom my nephew's hand is holding in what seems to be an unnecessary manner?
This young lady is Miss Cecily Carter, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there is something particularly exciting in the air in this part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that seems to go on seems to me to be above the statistical average. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Tell me, Mr. Worthing, is this Miss Cardew at all related to any of the larger railway stations in London? Until yesterday, I had no idea that any family's origin could be a terminus.
Miss Carter is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Carter, of Frognall Hampstead, Princess Grace Avenue in Monaco, and Passage Maritime Cities.
Oh, that sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. Gwendolyn, the time approaches for our departure. We'd expected to tea with a minor royal. I can't remember which one. Kensington Palace is so overcrowded. That being said, I'm glad to know that taxpayers' money is being spent on such a worthy cause as the civil list. Come, child, we have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I'd better ask if Miss Cardew has any fortune.
Oh, about $250 million in inflation-protected securities. That is all, I'm afraid. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. Did I hear you say billion?
No, Lady Bracknell. I said billion. With a B. As in old bad.
Oh, the inflation-protected securities. Yes, this Miss Cardew seems to me to be a rather attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present have any real solid qualities that last irrespective of inflation. Come here, dear. Pretty child, kindly turn around. This side view is what I want. Yes, the two real weak points of this society are its want of principle and its want of profile. I see distinct social possibilities in your profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Yes, style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. At present, it is worn very high. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest girl in the world, and I don't care tuppence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Of course, you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. I disapprove of mercenary marriages, but I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me. And you may refer to me as Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better happen very soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I'm not in favour of long engagements. They always give one the chance to get to know the other person, especially before marriage.
Please excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's cousin, and she cannot marry without my consent. That consent I absolutely declare to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an ostentatiously eligible young bachelor. I mean, look at him. He has nothing, but he looks everything. What could one want?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the truth is that I do not approve his moral character at all. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He went to Oxford.
I thought we were being no possible matter about the subject. This afternoon, during my temporary absence to London, he succeeded in alienating the affections of my only ward. He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single piece of cake. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is he knew perfectly well from the first that I have no brother. I never had a brother, and I'm never going to have a brother.
Upon careful consideration, Mr. Worthing, I decided to overlook my nephew's conduct towards you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My decision on the subject, however, is irrevocable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, dear. Here. Tell me, dear, how old are you?
Well, I'm 18, but I always admit to 20 at parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, a woman should never be entirely accurate about her age. It looks so calculating. Being 18, of course, you are legally free from the restraints of tutelage. Therefore, I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any concern.
Please excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that, according to her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew doesn't come into her stage until she's 35. Unless exception.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a perfectly attractive age. Indeed, London society is full of women who, of their own free choice, have remained 35 for years. I do not see why our dear little Cecily could not be even more attractive at age 35, since by then there will be a large accumulation of interest.
Algie, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I could. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively. But I couldn't wait all that time. I hate even waiting 5 minutes for anybody. It makes me very cross. So, waiting to be married is simply out of the question.
What is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew positively states, she cannot wait until she is 35, which seems to me to show a rather impatient nature. I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But, my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent my marriage to Gwendolyn, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my wards.
You must be quite aware that what you ask is entirely out of the question.
Then a passionate singlehood is all that we can all look forward to.
Living in sin is not the destiny that I propose for my only daughter. Algernon, however, can choose for himself. Come, dear, we may have to settle for an even lesser royal.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings? Is that not somewhat premature?
These gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age? The idea is grotesque and irreligious.
Am I to understand then that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of much practical value for either one of us.
I am sad to hear this from you, Mr. Worthing. I will return to the church at once. The verger has just texted me that Miss Prism has been waiting for me for the last hour.
Prism? Did I hear you say Prism?
Yes, milady. I'm on my way to join her.
Allow me to detain you for a moment. This may prove to be of vital importance to Lord Bracken and myself. Is this Miss Prism a bespectacled female, remotely connected to education?
She's the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
Yes, it is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am servant, madam.
Miss Prism has been for the last 3 years Miss Cato's governess and esteemed companion.
Yes, in spite of what I hear of her, I must talk with her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She's nigh.
I've been waiting in the vestry for over an hour, dear Canon.
Prism! Prism, come over here! Prism, where is that baby? "28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracken's estate, number 104 Grosvenor Square, in possession of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, upon the careful investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered in a remote corner of Clapham Common. It contained the manuscript to a novel with more than usually revolting sentimentality, but the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?"
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. In the morning you mentioned, I prepared myself as usual to take the baby out in its pram. I had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag, which I intended to place the manuscript of the wonderful fiction you referred to. In a moment of mental distraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I placed the manuscript last night, the baby and
Where could we post it down?
do not Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is my little so important. I insist on where could we post it down? I must retire for a moment. Wait for me.
If you're not too long, I'll wait here for you on my line.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracken?
I do not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly remind you that in families of high society, such strange coincidences are not supposed to happen. They should remain the stuff of afternoon soap operas.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
It has stopped now.
I do wish you would arrive at some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prism, this is a kind of lacking. Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here is the angel who received John Christoffel in the Northern Line in my younger days. Oh, and here are my initials. This bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm so delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It's been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more has been restored to you than this had. I was a baby placed in it. Yes, Mother!
Mr. Worthing, I'm unmarried.
What? A single mother? I do not deny that it's a serious blow. But, after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is someone who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell. Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but could you kindly inform me who I am?
I'm afraid the news that I have to give you will not entirely please you, Mr. Worthing. You are the son of my sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algermon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? Then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Algernon, Cecily, my inferior brother. Wendy, my inferior brother. Dr. Chasuble, my inferior brother. Algernon, you will have to treat me with respect in the future.
My own? But what own are you? What is your first name now that you've become someone else?
I had quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject is irrevocable, I suppose.
Well, I never change except in my affections.
What a little name you have, Gwendolyn.
Then the question will be better cleared out at once. Antagasta. At the time when I was placed in Hannah, had I been christened already?
Oh, every luxury that money could buy, including a christening, was doted upon you by your loving parents.
Then that's settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Well, naturally being the eldest, you were christened after your father.
Yes, I know, but what was my father's first name?
I cannot at present remember the gentleman's first name, but I'm sure he had one.
Algy, can you recollect my father's first name?
We were never on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army list of the period, I suppose, Antagasta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I'm sure his name would appear in any military registry.
Let's Google him!
Let's Google.
Why, thank you, Lady Bracknell. General Moncrief. Then, I found him. Lieutenant 1959. Captain. Lieutenant Colonel. Colonel. General 1988. First name. Ernest John. I always told you, Gwendolyn, my name was Ernest. Well, it is Ernest. I mean, it naturally is Ernest.
Yes, I remember now that the general's first name was Ernest. I knew you had a reason for disliking the name.
Ernest. My own Ernest. I thought from the first you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it is a hard thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. You forgive me?
I can't, for I feel that you're shortchanged.
Cecily at last.
Gwendolyn, at last.
My dear nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Antagasta, I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
for you.
Oh, see.
There's 2 tickets to Sister Act.
Oh, great. Amanda, who's left the station to go up to the bar. Okay, I would like to thank everybody else also who's helped on the show, an awful lot of people, especially the people who helped building this whole thing, because this auditorium is actually completely empty when you get here. Okay, so that means Steve, Julie. It's a lot of work, and but I think it's worth it. We've been at it for about 8 months, and I feel as if I've just given birth. And these are my octuplets.
I'm pregnant now with the pantomime that's coming up. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and I hope you all enjoyed the show. Just a reminder, as you know, it's the time of year where we are very much involved in our yearly pantomime. We're extremely excited, and a reminder to you that this year we are going to be doing it in the Prado Theatre, the days 5th, 6th, and 7th of December. So we welcome you to come with family and friends, and to enjoy the show and to enjoy Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. So just a reminder, and hope to see you, if not before, then. Thank you so much.
Gracias.